Good morning. I'm going to tell you a story this morning. It might be the first of several. And this one is about a chap called Naaman. It occurs in 2 Kings chapter 5. And it's about his healing from leprosy. I love this story because, for many reasons really. It's about the commander of an occupying and invading army in Israel. It's about God's care for him, despite the fact that he was an enemy of Israel, or the enemy of God's people. And it's also a lot of it's about evangelism, really, in that Naaman hears about Elisha the prophet and his healing powers from an Israelite who was enslaved. So Naaman's told by the prophet Elisha to go and wash 7 times in the river Jordan. And Elisha is just sending his messenger out to Naaman, and Naaman's incensed by this. And also because he's told to go and cleanse himself in such an horrible, slow-moving, muddy river, and such as the Jordan. And he says, "Are not Abana and Pharpar, the rivers of Damascus, better than all of the rivers of Israel?" And any of us who have been underwhelmed by our first visit to the banks of the tiny river Jordan will know that Naaman had a point. It isn't very impressive. This story came about because Naaman's wife had serving her a young Israelite girl who had been captured, kidnapped and enslaved. Human trafficked, if you like, by the Aramean army. Naaman's superior, the king of Aram, sent a letter to the king of Israel along with gold and silver and rich garments. And the king of Israel, receiving all this, can only imagine that his adversary is just seeking to make a worse quarrel with him. But Elisha the prophet takes a different attitude. "Send him to me," he says. And Elisha deals with him by his messenger, as I said before. The way in which Naaman changes his attitude shows just how much he wanted to be healed. This story shows us just how things are never simple. In this instance, something good happened out of several bad things happening. It's a story of how arrogance turned to humility, and a story about a journey to faith by Naaman that must have had some effect upon his whole entourage. So it's a story about evangelism as well, perhaps. It's a story, I think, that warns us against simplistic thinking, that right and wrong is divided one from the other quite as obviously as we sometimes assume it to be. It's also a story with a sting in its tail for Gehazi, who was Elisha's messenger. Read it and you will find out why. There are so many great stories throughout the books of Kings and Chronicles and the wider Old Testament, and we really ought to read them more as Christians. They are really important and enjoyable to read, to meditate and to think about. And next time, if I'm ever allowed to do this again, I'll be looking at a vision a civil engineering project that is a story that, when I was quite young, had a big impact on me. So watch this space and think about the Old Testament. Amen.